reporter, a journalist. At the time, he was out of the business. He worked at the Alabama Department of Transportation when I was trying to get started. And what he did was he kind of told me, he was very honest in my job search. And so he kind of got the ball rolling. He passed away a few years ago, but I do remember him. My mom introduced me to him. And then there was also the people at WSFA in Montgomery, Alabama, a great station, a great operation, NBC affiliate there. That's where I did my internship. And Tanya Terry was a morning anchor. She's a morning anchor there. Judd Davis, another morning anchor there. Desmond Wingard. A lot of those people at that station helped me get my start to where I am today. And then it just kind of got the ball rolling everywhere I went. I just kind of met people along the way who helped me along the way. Have you had the opportunity to mentor anyone yourself? Yes, and that's probably one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done or ever have had to experience. There's one guy who's actually a sports director in a station in Panama City, Patrick Brickman, wonderful kid. I was a youth minister in Alabama, so when you work in your first job, you really don't get paid that much. And an opportunity came along at my church that they asked me to be a co-youth minister, and it was a paying job, but he was a sophomore when I was working as the youth minister, and I didn't know he wanted to do what I was doing until he got to college, and he talked to me about it, and I gave him an opportunity to do an internship in Pittsburgh when I lived there at the station there for a summer, and it was the summer of 2013. He stayed with me and my roommate at the time, and I was very proud of what he did. He went from throughout the summer working like a weekend shift to becoming one of the most reliable interns in that crop of interns. And there were a lot of great people in that group. But I had a chance to mentor him. I've mentored other interns that have come to the stations where I've worked, including a few that have worked here at NBC10 that are now getting their first job out of college. Mentoring's it's great. It's highly underrated. Everybody should do it. It's got all the advantages of having children with none of the disadvantages. Right. It's great to see the people move forward. It's great when you see somebody doing something you taught them, and it's even better when your mentees mentor someone else, and right. You know that it's the circle is complete. The only thing I ever ask people to do when they ask me about me mentoring them, or if they ask me for advice, I always say, make sure whatever you do, you just pass it along to the next person. See, I don't think, whenever I've been involved in it, it's never been anybody approached anybody about it. It's been two people got stuck with each other. And you realize this is going to be that kind of relationship, because right. This annoying person isn't going away until I give them enough wisdom so that they can leave or something. But I've never had anybody actually approach. And sometimes you don't realize that you were a mentor to somebody until way later, because there's no formal structure to it sometimes. What's the best part of the job? There's so many. Getting paid to dance around potholes? That seems to be a thing of yours. Better dance around than drive around, I'd say. Just the opportunity to tell stories about people who ordinarily we probably wouldn't even meet, or we just pass by each other, whether we're driving by each other or walking by each other. Just the opportunity to be able to sit down and tell somebody's story and then see it happen and bring it to life on television, even though it is for 75 seconds. I think, the fact that we don't do the same thing every day, for the most part, it's probably the highlight of my job. I've met been able to meet so many people who, both famous and not famous, who are very passionate about their causes and passionate about telling their their experiences in their life, and just to have the opportunity to just sit and be someone who is just listening and hearing them out. And I think just helping somebody with whatever conflict they have is probably the best part of the job, in my opinion.
Well, it's funny because you go, I think people can be bad, but persons are good. Mm-hmm. And I think we forget that as we get saturated in all methods of communication now. There's so much saturation of stuff. I was telling somebody the other day, I don't know. I never wanted to know. I never asked anybody. I never sought out the information, but somehow I know what a Snooki is. Yeah. Okay. I never researched that. I don't want to know that. If there was a way to push it out my ear, because every time you learn something at a certain point, I'm at the age when I learn something new, something else drops off, you know, like I lose a number or a vowel or something. And I certainly don't want that information, but it's good to know that people are putting together, even if it is 75 seconds, things that they're thinking about. And, you know, it's like I told you when I talked to you last week or whatever, that, you know, the stuff comes up on Facebook now and then. And you seem to be getting more comfortable in your own skin, you know, and that takes time, you know, especially in the city.
So the toughest part about the job would be trying to adjust to a new area. So, to give you a bit of context, I spent 5 years before moving here. I spent 5 years in Pittsburgh, and by year 3 or 4, I was at the point where I could go somewhere and I could be myself, and people either knew who I was, or they knew where I worked, or they had seen me before and couldn't quite put a face with a name until they met me. Here, you're starting all over again, and starting all over is the toughest part.
In a ravenous city.
Right. Yeah, and I think a lot of people in Pittsburgh feel as though they're just like Philly, and you have to tell them it's not even close.
Okay, now to the challenge part of the show. Mm-hmm. How do you pronounce water?
Well, not water, but water.
Oh, Mr. Two-piece suit. Walter. Croissant. Okay. Cement.
Cement.
Conshohocken.
The
name of our expressway. The bane of everyone's existence.
Schuylkill. Or are you talking about Vine Street?
No. Well, yeah. No, you got it right the first time. Hoagie or sub or Zep?
I think I've lived in this area long enough to just call it a hoagie.
You did good. Your handler's back to sweating. She's like, what are these questions?
There's some things that I've picked up, you know, but still,
You're good. You can stay. You're
right,
good.
And to jump back to the water thing, you know, my mom spent years of my entire life just trying to make sure that I spoke, you know, with correct pronunciation, with great grammar and English, and so I got to hand that to her about, you know, how I pronounce things. But there's still some things, like if you catch me, if I wasn't on the radio with you, you probably, if you caught me on the street, I'd probably slip up a few words in Southern dialect, but not like Northeast.
Well, it's okay to slip up a little bit. I mean, that's just human. The I guess bonus round, last question. Mm-hmm. Where are you at on Scrapple?
I haven't tried it yet.
How long you been here?
2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, if you're going to try it, don't read anything about it before you try it.
That's too late. Here's the thing. Yeah. Here's the thing. I love pork rinds, so I can't think. And I grew up on pork rinds and sauce meat, which is a cheese, but it looks and it tastes kind of like a meat. But I can't think that Scrapple would be any different.
Oh, little do you know.
Yeah.
Little do you know. Scrapple is a composite. That's my godchildren wouldn't eat Scrapple, and they had read about it, and they came to visit and had barbecued some stuff for them. And what I done was I fried the Scrapple, then I barbecued it.
Barbecued it like
it was good. It was good.
Barbecue sauce, and
I didn't go crazy with sauce or whatever, but I just wanted to get the smoke in it.
Okay.
And then they ate it, and I'm like, well, how was that? like, now pick up your phones and Google Scrapple. Because that's what you just ate.
It sounds like a Disney movie going on.
Yeah. Make sure it's cooked right.
Okay.
It's cooked right. Get yourself some Scrapple. In the time you've done the business, 12 years, you're at a certain technological level, but how has technology impacted the way you do your job?
Man, it went from 0 to 60 to 100. So when I first started in 2006, Facebook was around. A lot of people weren't on Facebook yet because Facebook was primarily for college kids. And so by that time, I had it when I was in college. And by the time I got to my first job, it was still kind of spreading its wings across the country. Twitter wasn't really a big thing. Snapchat, Instagram, those things didn't even exist yet. But the way we use Facebook then is totally different than the way we use Facebook now. And the evolution kind of continued once I got to my second stop in Vermont, where more and more people were logging onto Facebook, including my mom. I remember she surprised me with a friend request one day. And then
when she gave you the friend request, how much time passed before you accepted it?
I got to be honest. I didn't want to play her. And so I knew I had nothing to hide. So I just felt as though I said.
So it came across, you just went, dink. And now mom's in my circle.
It hit me for a minute. So I kind of waited around and I'm like, but it probably took me a couple minutes because it kind of had to settle in.
But with certain people, friend requests, you weigh the ramifications of, I'm crossing the streams here.
And that's the thing now is when I've gotten to Pittsburgh and where I'm at now, like we have people who will see us on TV and they'll find my personal Facebook account and they'll friend me there. And I'm trying to get those people who are viewers more so to go to my professional account. But we use Facebook now for news stories. We use Twitter for news stories. Back when those things were first coming out, we didn't really use that for those. We didn't really use those for that purpose. But now it almost drives our content from what we put on the air.
If you weren't doing this, before we go to after show, if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing? Not basketball.
Not basketball. That's a good question.
Swanky accountant?
Maybe. A teacher. Maybe a youth minister. I don't know.
But I'm talking about a young guy's job. Those are all jobs you could still do. You could do those jobs in 20 years.
I could, but if I do it now, I can relate more to, the kids.
Yeah, that's kind of a mixed thing because you can, and that's part, you always have to have young people around for that very reason, but you also have to have older people that have the wisdom to guide them, in the right direction. It's like we were talking, me and
Diana.
She that will remain nameless, I guess.
I already spoiled it. So.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We were talking about how, you have, when you could biologically have children, is different than when you can mentally have them sometimes. And
I understand that.
At different times. What do you think your legacy will be?
I just want to be known as someone who has helped others. And I think ultimately I want my legacy to be seen through other people who I've mentored. So my mentees.
Your mentees.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll do a little bit of after show. Thank you for coming, Brandon.
No problem.
Thank you, Diana. And we'll do a little bit of after show. See, I went quick.
You're telling me. Time flies when you're having fun.